Brother Jack here. More than 60 years ago, when a friend of mine was a young teenager, he asked his mother about prophecy and about something called the Great Tribulation. He wanted to know when it was going to happen, and he remembers his mother saying, "People in Russia think it's happening already." Certainly there are lessons to be learned in Bible prophecy which can serve us well in any age and through any form of adversity. I for one have been struck by how much the present situation with regard to the COVID-19 virus seems like what I have imagined will only happen when the final ultimate Great Tribulation occurs. I've pictured that coming time as being a situation where Christians everywhere will be hiding out in caves. And one of my first questions has always been, what is the point of it? If we're just sitting there doing nothing for 3 or more years, we might as well just die and be done with it. Well, here we are now, trapped inside our homes as a result of this terrible new coronavirus, but we are not sitting idle as I had assumed. In fact, we seem to be reaching hundreds of thousands of people more than we were reaching before this pandemic started. People everywhere are at home and surfing the internet. They're looking for explanations. They're thinking about life and death issues. What a great time and a great opportunity to reach out to them. This may not be the final Great Tribulation, but it has brought that whole period of Bible prophecy into much clearer focus for me now. So here is what I am going to do in this video. I'm going to list some key events mentioned in Bible prophecy, and I'm going to try and lay them out in chronological order. Here they are, in alphabetical order to start with. Let's start with the Great Tribulation. That is a period during which there will be greater suffering on earth than there has ever been since the beginning of time. Several of the other events in our list are built around the centrality of this Great Tribulation, so that makes it a good place to start. The main point of contention between Bible students about the Great Tribulation itself is just over whether it will be for 7 years or whether it will be for only half of what is called the last 7 years. I personally think it will only be for the second half, so we'll put the last 7 years here in the centre of the screen, and we'll show the Great Tribulation as being the second half of those last 7 years. Next is the rapture. That is a time when believers everywhere, including resurrected believers from the past, will be caught up, as the King James Bible puts it, into the air to meet Jesus as he comes down toward earth. Prophecy students are most commonly divided into 2 camps. One called pre-trib and the other called post-trib, based on whether they think the rapture comes here at the start of the Great Tribulation or whether it comes here at the end of the Great Tribulation. I believe it'll come at the end. For me, the return of Jesus and the rapture are virtually the same event. We meet Jesus halfway in the 1,000-mile square city in the sky called the New Jerusalem, and we have a celebration with him there for a few weeks called the Marriage Supper of the Lamb. I've not included those terms just to keep our chart less cluttered. However, for most pre-trib rapture people, even though they believe the rapture comes before the Great Tribulation, they do not believe that Jesus himself returns until the end of the Great Tribulation. So that is why I've kept these 2 events as separate entities in this diagram. There is another event which both sides are looking for, and that is an agreement to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This is alluded to in the first 2 verses of the 11th chapter of the Revelation. The Hebrew prophet Daniel said in the Old Testament that there would be an agreement made between the Jews and the Antichrist prior to the Great Tribulation, and Daniel gives specific numbers of days between various events, including reference to sacrifices ceasing in the middle of the last 7 years. Well, first you need a temple before you can resume animal sacrifices, so we'll put this agreement over here at the start of the last 7 years. From what Daniel has said, you can actually calculate such things as how many days it will take to construct the temple after the agreement has been made. It will be about 7 months for those who are interested. Okay, so that is your basic framework. It is during this period, especially the second 3.5 years of the last 7 years, that many of the predicted events in the Revelation will take place, and it will be during this period that we can literally count down to the return of Jesus. I will add 2 more events to this basic framework before we start to tackle the most difficult pieces. Those events are the wrath and the famous Battle of Armageddon. The wrath itself lasts for about a month and a half, starting immediately after the rapture. During that time, the angels of God pour out 7 bowls of punishment on those people who are still alive on earth after the Christians have left. This month and a half coincides with celebrations for the saints in heaven. However, the saints leave the New Jerusalem just at the end of their celebrations to participate in the Battle of Armageddon, where all the armies on earth prepare to do battle with this heavenly army of saints. Pre-trib rapture people see the wrath and the Great Tribulation as being the same thing. However, it seems that what happens during the 7 trumpets is not as extreme as what happens during the 7 bowls or vials of wrath. And that is why many post-trib people like ourselves see them as 2 separate periods of time. It also explains a mysterious period of 45 days in Daniel's prophecies. Okay, so now we just have 3 major topics of the Revelation remaining. However, these are the ones that are of most importance and consequently the most interest to us, because it seems like they all might happen sometime before the last 7 years begin. In other words, anytime now. It's just that we don't have clarity on how long before the last 7 years they actually happen. These events are the fall of America, the appearance of the beast himself, and the implementation of his mark. It seems reasonable to assume that they come in that order. That is, assuming that the beast comes to power after destroying America, and assuming the beast needs to be in power before he can usher in his mark. This is also what makes so many of us feel that each of these events must be very close to happening. We have in other videos on this channel said a lot about Russia and China, but there is no world leader at the moment who has a name that adds up to 666 through the numerical value of the letters in his name, either in Hebrew or in Roman numerals. That is the primary clue which the Revelation gives us for spotting the Antichrist. That is, the value of the letters in his name must add up to 666. But neither is there anything that demands that these things must happen in that order. It just seems that there will be prolonged suffering if the mark of the beast comes in before the Great Tribulation, because Christians have been told to choose death over accepting that mark, and it will be impossible for us to do any kind of business without it. There's a lot of pressure at the moment for the whole world to do away with cash and to bring in an RFID chip to monopolize all business transactions. So where is the Antichrist himself? And why hasn't the US fallen yet? Surely these things must be very close to happening. Perhaps there will be a change of leadership in China. Perhaps Russia will assist China in an attack on the US, and thus gain control of the United Nations. Perhaps the beast will stay secret for a while, and maybe he will let the implanted microchip become widespread before he actually makes his appearance. All of these questions remain waiting for answers, so we need to be watchful in these last days. For ourselves, we started 10 years ago to reject RFID chips in such things as credit cards and passports, thus gaining more experience in living without such technology. It has not been easy, but it is building our faith that God can make ways around what lies ahead. Of course, we are also hoping for something else that is not clearly explained in prophecy, and that is a little secret protection, that cave I mentioned at the start of this video. The Bible says that 144,000 faithful followers of Jesus, the Lamb, will be cared for in a secret hideout during this 3.5-year period of great tribulation. It is not clear who those people are, but we've kind of been thinking that it might be people who have listened to Jesus, the Lamb, and started obeying him right now, before God's judgment comes on a disobedient world when the Great Tribulation begins. If you'd like to be part of this movement, please write to me and let me know what country you live in. I'll try to put you in touch with others who are trying to follow the Lamb wherever he goes. I look forward to hearing from you today. Thank you.